Greetings, music lover. I yield to music power. Here I forward and the hour. Music like shower.
Yeah, well, welcome to another edition of On The Wire. My name is Steve Barker. This is BBC Radio Lag Show with you through till midnight. This isn't actually another edition of On The Wire. This is part two of a show that we started off back in August last year with our favoured guest, Mr. Dave Katz, featuring at that time Dave talking about his book, his biography of Lee Scratch Perry, People Funny Boy, that's now been reprinted. But not only that, Dave's compiled this thing on Motion, Born in the Sky, Lee Scratch Perry, Upset at the Controls, 69 to 73. And that particular track was taken from it, and Dave can tell us what it was. Dave, welcome again.
Yes, greetings to all your regular listeners. It's nice to be back on the wire. And the track that we just heard was Prove It version, which some listeners might recognize as an ex-cut to the song Uncle Charlie by the Mellotones. And some part of the beauty of compiling Born in the Sky for me was that we could include tracks like this, which really show sort of the upsetters under construction, as it were, because this is like, a cut with Val Bennett saxophone included on it that didn't actually get issued at the time. Probably Scratch thought it wasn't really up to it.
Dave, you just tempted me to ask you loads of questions before we get some tunes now. Now, I've got about 3 questions because you just said that, that simple statement. But Born in the Sky is now out, isn't it? So been on the streets for 2 or 3 weeks.
That's right.
So, and we're going to be having a competition later on the programme to win either a CD copy or a vinyl copy.
Double gatefold vinyl.
Well, I know which one I'd go for. I mean, I'd go for the vinyl, but donated kindly by Mr. James Dutton, who was also a label owner of Motion, sat in the corner there. Let's have another tune, and then we'll start a chat, Dave. And as usual, I mean, Dave's brought like the CD. Thanks a lot, but I've got the CD, but loads of vinyl that people kill for. It's a good job this is recording and people don't know you're here. Otherwise, there'll be people waiting outside the studio. Dave, what's the next, or what's the first piece of vinyl up here now?
Right. Well, we're going to step up the pace a couple of years to when Scratch had a tenure as one of the in-house producers at Dynamic Sound Studio, Byron Lee's studio, which was then the best equipped studio on the island. So this particular track that we're going to start off with is King of Kings by Pat Francis. Pat Francis here in his guise as a vocalist, but he's better known as the DJ Jaloid or Jalion.
Let us give thanks to the King of Kings. He is the Lord and the Lord of all, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, elect of God and the light of the world. His imperial majesty, His imperial majesty. Sit upon His throne and He rules us all. Sit upon His throne and He because He's real. I said I love Jah because He's real. Jah never leave I, oh no. Jah never hurt I, oh no. Let us give thanks to the King of Kings. He is the Lord and the Lords of all, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, elect of God and the light of the world. His imperial majesty, His imperial majesty. Sit upon His throne and He rule us all. Sit upon His throne and He rule us all. Said
was Conqueror, Stranger and Gladdy, recorded at this Dynamic Studio. Before that, Pat Francis, who died, I think, last year.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. Kind of a sad demise.
Yeah, it certainly was, wasn't it? Right. The question I was going to ask before, Dave, was the album Born in the Sky. What was, I think, surprising to a lot of people was all the number of alternate takes, or the number of alternate takes, because it's one of those things that you don't think actually happens all that much in reggae, you know, because of the whole kind of commercial things, you know, like there weren't like lots of tape. There wasn't lots of tape lying around, you know, and this kind of stuff. So were these actually alternate takes that were actually mixed down, or were they still there lying around on tape, or what was the situation?
Those days, it seems, Scratch would basically, he'd have the crew in the studio, and they would just record it until they got it right.
Yeah.
And when they got it right, the last take would be used.
Yeah.
So, you know, because of that, yeah, there are all these alternate takes around. And I mean, in terms
if the tapes are still there.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, in terms of mixing, you know, it's kind of anyone's guess how much of a final mix down a lot of these tracks got. A lot of them were just sort of issued in mono.
Yeah.
You know, back then pretty much everything was 2-track.
So how much do you reckon still lying around? Is it difficult
we
to
can
say?
only hazard a guess. I think there used to be a lot more lying around before certain people, you know, filled up their bags with it and went off with it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
And,
you
to
know,
the
ex-partners and that kind of thing.
to the four corners of the world.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Last time you were on, we were talking about Scratch until we got into the Black Hawk. How did he get the finance to start up the Black Hawk? How did that happen?
From what I understand, he was saving bit by bit. He was sort of whittling away money. I mean, basically, when he had his first hit, like People Funny Boy was the first record he produced as an independent producer, which sold significantly. In a lot of ways, it's kind of the turning point for Scratch, which is why I titled my biography of Scratch People Funny Boy. With the money he got from that, he actually bought his house at 5 Cardiff Crescent in Washington Gardens. When he had a next hit with Return of Django, apparently he brought back this Jaguar from London, shipped it down, a Model S, the S car, as Scratch would call it. So I think, you know, along the way, when he would have something that sold enough after that, little by little he was putting money away. And his kind of common law wife, for want of a better term, I mean, they were never officially married, but Pauline Morrison, the mother of 3 of his children, she sort of said to him, you know, look, you're going to Randy's and you're spending all this money at Randy's and, you know, you're doing all this spending money here and spending money there. What about, you know, how about if you had a studio of your own? So I think this was part of the impetus for him to save money, to open a space of his own. And
So we'd have more money for the housekeeping.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that. But in any event, maybe more money for the hungry mouths to be fed.
For sure.
But apparently the story goes, you know, he was searching all over town for a space of his own. Couldn't find the right space until one day, while lounging underneath this lignum vitae tree in his yard, which is the national tree of Jamaica, he had a vision. I believe we would maybe call that something like a daydream, but some kind of a vision came to him that this was the spot, build a studio right here.
All right.
So eventually, you know, construction was initiated.
I mean, when the studio was first built, it didn't have all the kit in, obviously, that it ended up with later on. But was it Tubby responsible for helping him out in getting the gear in there?
Well, apparently the way the studio was equipped was it was mostly well, at the very, very beginning. Scratch says the first mixing board he bought for that studio, he bought on the Edgware Road for like £35, I believe, in London. So this is the thing. He used to buy most of his equipment when he was up in London. But the studio, when it first opened in the end of 73, it was very, very basic. I mean, it had this kind of mixing desk that was designed for radio station usage. It was an Alice. The board was an Alice board, apparently. And he didn't have a proper studio amp. He had just like a little stereo amp, a little Marantz stereo amp. So, I mean, you're talking about very, very basic limited gear and a TEAC 4-track. And apparently it was Errol Thompson, the great engineer, E.T., that set up the studio for Scratch. But Scratch was adamant to point out that Errol Thompson set it up, but he couldn't make it work. You know, so even the guy who set it up couldn't make it work, and the great King Tubbies couldn't make it work because it was only toys, these little toy machines. But of course, Scratch knew how to make it work. This is all part of Scratch's genius. To me, it's making the impossible possible with sound.
For sure. Let's move on and play another tune then. This is one that can't be recognised from just looking at the label.
Yes, it's Professor Ironside. A lot of the listeners out there, again, you might know this as a kind of wacky keyboard instrumental, but here it is in its vocal form with Lloyd Parks, one of Jamaica's great bass players, taking the lead.
Here comes Professor Ironside, uglier than the ugly, better known as the Tacker.
Talk about the ugly, he's double, double ugly. I'm a screw him screw, he was born to be ugly. He was sent from south, a conquering lion. Hear me, cool you will, whether you're iron or a steel. Cooler and don't show up, or the talker will cut you off. This is the tackler. Ugly than the ugly, tougher than tough, rougher than rough, and dreader than dread. So cool you will, whether you are iron or a steel. And if you dreader than dread, I am tougher than lead. You understand? So cool you will, yeah, whether you are iron or a steel. Is the tack road tougher than tough, rougher than rough, and dread, tougher than tough, dreader than dread, solid more than lead, hey, dreader than dread. So cool you will now, whether you are iron or a steel. For this is the talk rock than ugly.
I was a blessed by the star, and I was blessed by the moon, and I was blessed by the sun of thunder, and the sun and the sun and the sun and the light, the sun ray and the sun night, the sun day.
The earth is the fullness of the Father. Love the trees and all living creature, and man for man to rule them all. And everything were made for a purpose. I born for a purpose, and everyone born for a purpose. Yeah. If you do good, good will follow you. If you live for yourself alone, you will suffer. Will someone tell me what's wrong I have done? Many times, no food to eat, even nowhere to sleep. But I put my trust in the Father, the true and living God. Said I put my trust in the true and living God, the maker of heaven and earth. Yeah.
That's another one on vinyl with a name that looks familiar, Dave. Edmund Brooks, is it?
Yes, Edmund Brooks, better known to the world as Mike Brooks. And this is a Black Ark selection, voiced and mixed at the Black Ark. Earth is the fullness.
Nice tune, actually, and he's got a great voice on that, hasn't he? You know,
Yes.
real great delivery.
Yes, right. That's when he was really firing. And it came on his own label, Harvest.
All right. And recently put out that album he put out last year, Just the Vibes, was a lot of stuff that was like voiced over, maybe dubs or plates or whatever, yeah?
It was like rhythms that Earl Morgan of the Heptones had, gotten back off of scratch from like the Party Time era.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, we're into the Black Ark now, and I don't know whether we're not necessarily going to play things absolutely chronologically, but we're
sticking vaguely within the chronology. This is the early days of the Ark when
That's
it was
right.
really just first
That's
up and running.
So what was like really driving Scratch then? Because up until then, I mean, he'd had a lot of success, hasn't he? And but he'd always been like beholden to other people.
To
Was
others,
it?
yes.
Was it suddenly like that kind of independence? Because he really was the reggae auteur, wasn't he? Or he became the reggae auteur. I mean, that's where I don't want to be too soody about it, but that's what Scratch very much was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think if you look at his work, there is always that element, certainly from the late 60s when he kind of has broken away from Coxsone and begins to be more actively engaged as a producer rather than just as a vocalist or, as an auditions person or a vibesman. So I think there is always, you hear a tune and you can usually instantly hear the hand of Scratch when he's involved.
But he wasn't in control, was he?
That's right. And he always had, I think, if you think about studio time, always having a constraint with your eye on the clock because it's costing you money and somebody else always knocking on the door to come in. So, now you can picture with the Black Ark, he's got his studio literally in his yard. I mean, it's just like part of his home. So, the majority of his working day and night is just there now in the studio. That's artistic freedom, definitely.
But the boot then was on the other foot, wasn't it? Because then he could like call the shots, basically.
Yeah.
But then people used the studio. Did people start using the studio right from the day one, or did it take some time to?
Yeah, I think again there was a lot of bartering going on, which was also the case when Scratch was working at Dynamics. Scratch used to produce things for Dynamics and exchange that for studio time so he could have free time of his own. So now you might get the same thing. You might get someone coming down to voice a tune, or like Zap Powell have spoken about. Scratch was using them to play horns on some Bob Marley material. So then, Dave Madden was able to use free studio time to make that great track River that came on that Pressure Sounds compilation. Yeah. So I think there was always this element, but it wasn't really maybe like another studio that was just making most of its business by being hired out. I think it was always, this is Scratch, this is my studio, this is my space for my work predominantly.
What I'd like to do is next is talk about how Scratch began to change as a person, or did he begin? I'll just plant this with you,
okay,
and then we'll play some tunes. How Scratch began to change as a person, or did he begin to change as a person when he was actually in control and through the period of the Black Hawk, which was basically through the mid-70s and when he got control. But we'll talk about that after a next tune, which I think is another one from Born in the Sky, which is the reason why you're here, isn't it? Yeah.
Indeed. And it's another alternate take of Enter the Dragon. And we're going to follow that up, actually, with a different take, which is not on this compilation, but which came on a different album, a kind of obscure album that came out around the time this was recorded in 1974. But if you give a close listen, you'll hear some... a kind of amusing exchange taking place between Scratch and Winston Blake, who was assisting him at that time.
What's the difference in this alternate tape? Because I checked this and against the one which was on the Kung Fu album. Yeah.
Yes.
And I actually prefer this take to the
well,
one
like
that was
I
released.
say, this one has a nice inclusion in the middle of a bit of studio kind of banter, there's a bit more vocal experimentation that was kind of left off.
Yeah, it sounds like almost, I don't know whether it's like the cut or whatever, but it just sounds crisper cut as well,
Could well be.
Oh, James isn't listening, is he? Enter the Dragon.
This is Kung Fu, taking you on a musical review. With John Saxon and Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon. Karate. Enter the Dragon. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Deal with me.
Enter the dance. This is Kung Fu, taking you on a musical review with John Saxon and Bruce Lee. Enter the track.
off the ground, for this is no time to lie around. If he says he loves you, stick around. Why you gonna put him down? Don't get weary, little girl, don't get weary. You're getting weary, little girl, don't get weary. 1,000 times or more, you told him you really love him so. You want the whole wide world to know that you never, never let him go. Don't get weary, little girl, don't get weary. You're getting weary, little girl, don't get weary. A 1,000 times or more, you told him you really love him so. You want the whole wide world to know that you never, never let him go. Don't get weary, little girl, don't get weary. Don't get weary, little girl, don't get weary. Don't get weary, little girl, don't get weary. You're getting weary, little girl, don't get weary. Don't get weary, little girl, you're getting weary. Don't get weary, little girl, you're getting weary.
Well, we had 4 tunes together, Dave, there, so I hope you can remember them or whilst I line up the next tune and you chat on there.
Yeah, well, we listened to a track from the great Heroes of Reggae and Dub album, which also came out on Motion Records. It's Scatolites meets King Tubby. And there are a few tracks on that album that were recorded at the Black Ark. And the song that we played, Close to Jaw, was a cut of a Tony Brevitt tune. Tony Brevitt from the Melodians, doing the tune called Starlight. And we followed it off with that last track there that we just played was Don't Get Weary by the Melodians, which came on an album called Premeditation, which the majority of the album was, again, recorded at the Black Ark for producer Sonia Pottinger, who was doing a fair amount of work with Scratch at that time, some licensing and different things.
It's a great little tune, that, isn't it?
Indeed, it's got a very nice the kind of bass drum, kick drum sound.
Yeah. But there's a kind of lilt in the vocal as well, in the
Definitely.
melody, you know.
I suppose an understated feel.
Yeah, I love the that mix of the Enter the Dragon, which was put out by Pete. It reminded me of that because it was a dub mix. When it was a dub mix, and it reminded me of that mix of Keep On Moving.
Yes,
know, where the brass goes whacking.
Yes, that 12-inch mix.
Yeah,
that's you know, when the tune starts, you don't think anything out of the ordinary is happening until suddenly you get bombarded with this brass.
Yeah.
So I suppose, like you say, that second cut of Enter the Dragon that we played, which came on an obscure album called Melting Pot, put out by Pete Weston, who did Micron Music, who was doing a lot of work with Scratch, 74, 75. You get these kind of outrageous horn blasts, and then everything's subjected to this heavy delay for some reason.
And of course there's a tribute to Pete Weston, isn't there, on the Born in the Sky?
That's
not exactly
right.
A tribute, is it?
Straight to Cheat Weston head, straight to Pete Weston's head. Again, another one of Scratch's sort of more notable dubs.
Yeah, well, heavy bass. I mean, I think that's the heaviest bass I've ever heard on this Scratch record.
Subsonic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sub bass you need in there. Right, Scratch. I mean, Scratch was always a bit of a character, right? And we established that on the last show, and everybody knows, you know, that bit of a character. But really, he did change, didn't he, when he got in control? And can you talk us through that? I mean,
well, it's sort of it's some of it we have to kind of guess, or
Yeah.
it depends who you talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, people who were close to him would, family members and, people who he lived with would say that there was always something different about Scratch. But how far we can take that or what that really means, who knows? People did sort of suggest that he was always following his own kind of path, going to the beat of a different drum. But I think it's sort of later down in the late 70s when his behavior begins to get more drastic. So how this relates to, being in full control of the studio, I don't know. I suppose maybe it's a gradual process again. And there seem to be a lot of different elements that contribute to what happens. Some of which has to do with a kind of very individual belief, a spiritual belief, because part of Scratch's project has always been, on the one hand, to serve the Almighty. And he's always done that in a very individual way. And a lot of his music projects have been about that. On the other hand, Scratch is somebody who's also kind of celebrated like sexuality in his work. So, some might see that as a contradiction.
Well, sometimes he's done both those things at the same
Both
time.
at the same time, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, Scratch always talks about sex as kind of a sort of sacred act.
Yeah. Which isn't new in terms of religion, is it? I mean, it's quite common in world religions, isn't it? You just think about Hinduism, and you could Scratch could almost be
All right,
just
but
move there, couldn't he?
maybe here in the West, though.
Oh, yeah,
that
bit
concept
bit trickier.
Tends to be divided from religion.
Well,
I don't know.
if you go and look on a few of the French cathedrals, I think you might have some tricky stuff carved in there from the 14th century. But the Black Ark, I suppose we tend to think about rationalise these things, looking back, and many people think that Scratch's best work was the Black Ark. But this is a broader question about Scratch. Was it his most successful work commercially?
Well, again, in terms of commercial success, when he had some of his largest commercial successes, maybe he didn't actually benefit from them. Two things that come to mind in particular date from right around this period of this music that we've been playing.
Yeah.
So first we had Hurt So Good by Susan Cadogan. It was a chart success in Britain. She was flown over to appear on Top of the Pops. But because Scratch had done a licensing deal with a small label in Britain who sub-licensed it to a major label, Scratch himself didn't benefit. And there were all kinds of contractual problems that resulted from his work with her because they didn't have a contract as such. So there was that, and then it was followed closely in early 75. The Junior Biles song Curly Locks also kind of scraped into the bottom realm of the pop charts here, and was again released by a major label here. But what Scratch got from those hits was studio equipment, improved studio equipment, a new Soundcraft mixing desk, which Dennis Harris, who ran Dip Records at the time, arranged for him to have shipped down to his studio. I think some other effects units, probably that the Roland Space Echo may have come from that time, or it may have been brought in a little bit later. So if you think about it, those were very, very successful works that, ironically, Susan Cadogan as well did not directly benefit from that hit.
So what Scratch got more than anything, apart from what you said, was also maybe the confidence as well, that his music could reach a wider public, but and also he got the name, that people would reference him with that. Outside of Jamaica, people knew about Scratch. They'd already known about. Like the kind of the whole kind of Django thing was maybe just like seen as one of those quirky, wacky, reggae one-off pop hits, as against the work of someone. Yeah.
But also, in '69, he was actually brought over with an Upsetters band to appear on Top of the Pops, and then he did work with the Wailers just after that. And I think people who discovered the Wailers maybe before their island phase, or even in the early island phase, I think Scratch did have respect for the work that he did, those two great albums, with the Wailers, before they signed with Island.
Yeah.
So maybe he already had the confidence and the kudos. But I think if you talk about his most commercially successful period, it's probably, we could say, when he himself had a contract with Island Records in the late 70s. A lot of people do see that as his most artistically triumphant period at the same time, although maybe the material that Island were releasing up here was not always the most radical of his creations, which he was putting out. Although again, when you sit down and listen to an album like Super Ape from start to finish, especially now, Simply Vinyl, they've done these amazing reissues on high quality vinyl, remastered. I mean, it's like listening to it with new ears, really. Yeah. And you listen to that work, I mean, that's an astounding work for Scratch with a 4-track studio in 1976. It really is so visionary and kind of predates a lot of not only other dub works to follow, but just all kinds of dance music that's been made recently, for example.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we haven't said this, and I know you've done the piece in The Wire a little while ago on like a Scratch
few years
primer,
back Yes.
Almost like I think I mentioned when I wrote a little review for Born in the Sky the other week. It really needs revisiting now because of what's available. But if anyone wants to ask me, I'm just going to go out and buy one Upsetter record. It will probably be, that has to convince me to get into. It will probably be Super Ape.
Super Ape, yeah. I know it definitely had a very profound effect on me the first time I heard it.
It's got a great cover too, hasn't it?
Indeed.
Let's move on with some tunes. This is something of a rarity, Dave. I've got this one.
Okay, well this is a nice little 7-inch by Winston Haywood and the Hombres, who were a group from a place called Madison Gardens, which is a very, very, very rough ghetto. One of the rougher ghettos in Kingston, known locally as Back 2. And in fact, it's quite close to where Federal Studio used to be, which is now Tough Gong Studio, or what was Tough Gong Studio. And Dynamic Sound is nearby as well. But it's basically a shanty town. So this is Winston Haywood with Long, Long Time.
Now when a man tell me that I
I no have no fun. It's a long, long time, I no get no run. So let me go now, let me jump on wheel. For this is not the time when I couldn't get here. So let me go now, I want to jump on wheel. Nice time, let me go now, man I couldn't get here. No, no, let me go now, I want to jump on wheel. Oh yeah, let me go now, man I couldn't get here.
Zap it on me, baby.
Buffalo Bill.
Run, come sing along, sing this song. Run, come,
on you mama, choke it on your papa, choke it on your preacher, choke it on your teacher. I relax the barber and I bury the razor. I lax the barber and I bury the razor. So you can run and come, but not choke it alive. Run and come, but not choke it alive. After the action, there shall be a reaction, and to every pollution, there is a solution. I don't pray that a gargon, neither no guinea cat. So take it easy, don't make no war in the synagogue. So you can run and come, but don't choke it alive. Run and come, but don't choke it alive. School children, sing along. Yeah. Sing this song. Sing along. Yeah. Sing this song. Choke it on the teacher, choke it on the preacher, choke it on the teacher, choke it on the teacher. Run, come, school children. Relax the barber, yeah, and I bury the razor. I lax the barber and bury the razor. Yeah, school children, sing along. Yeah. Sing this song. Sing along. Yeah. Sing this song. Choke it on your mama, choke it on your papa, choke it on your preacher, choke it on your teacher. School children, sing along. Yeah. Sing this song. Sing along. School children, sing this song.
Dave,
Yes, sir.
I think we're supposed to speak now.
Well, let's tell them all about it.
We're playing one from Born in the Sky at the moment, yeah?
True indeed. And this is that heavy dub we were alluding to before. That was straight to Pete Weston's head. The song Cheat Weston Head. And just groove to that subsonic bass.
Chuck it on it.
We've got to give a bit of a thank you here to James Dutton for chauffeuring Mr. Katz to the show tonight. And also, of course, James is the man responsible for Motion Records, and you can check out their website, www.motionrecords, all one word, of course, .com. And on the site, to find out what's there already. And you can get merchandise if you've got merchandise available. You can get download tracks from albums. I think you can get 4 from this particular one. And you can check all the forthcoming stuff on Motion, because they've got some interesting stuff planned. I don't think there's anything on there yet as future releases, but there's going to be some exciting stuff coming. So www.motionrecords.com, check the website. And back in a little while, to give a competition, giving away a copy of Born in the Sky, whether it be a CD or a vinyl.
Sing along. Sing along. Sing. Run. Sing. Sing along. Sing back. Sing along. Sing it. Sing a sing a sing this.
I think there may very well be some legal action in the near future for that track taking out some people's systems at home, do you reckon?
Rattling the window panes.
That's right. Totally blowing the speakers. We're going to give away a copy, and it's a writing competition because the show's recorded, as you might expect. It's a writing competition, so you can write to me, Steve Barker, care of On The Wire, BBC, Radio Lancashire, Darwin Street, Blackburn, BB2 2EA, or you can send me an email, steve.barker@bbc.co.uk. Well, I suppose you could write to James as well. What's yours, James?
JD@motionrecords.com.
JD@motionrecords.com. So there's loads of contact numbers there for you, contact addresses. We'll give a reminder of those later on. But what we want to know, I'm setting this question. I'm being didactic here. The programme tonight obviously is about Lee Scratch Perry, known as the Upsetter. But what we want to know is, or what we want you to tell us in as nice a way as possible, by email or by postcard, is another of Scratch's nicknames, another of a different nickname other than the Upsetter or Scratch, and send it on a postcard. Email to me, steve.barker@bbc.co.uk, to James Dutton, jd@motionrecords.com, or you can write to On The Wire, BBC Radio Lancashire, Darwin Street, Blackburn, BB2 2EA. David, we've got more lined up.
We certainly do. And the track that we played before those last two, Bury the Razor and Cheat Western Head, came from again a kind of an obscure little album called Reggae in America by a singer that was known as Lion Zion. And apparently he was an expatriate Jamaican who somehow ended up in the town of Oakland, California, across the bay from San Francisco, where I'm from. And he was involved in, I think he had a record shop at some time, and he used to do a little reggae fanzine. So apparently he turned up one day at the Black Ark, barefoot, wanting to book some studio time to do an album. So he did a whole album's worth of rhythms there, but some of the tracks he did some overdubs at a studio in California.
Right.
And the track we played there was Buffalo Dub. And I think it's fair to say that in terms of the album itself, Lion Zion, sometimes his vocals sort of let the album down a bit. I mean, they're very strong rhythms, as you could hear from that track. And as I mentioned in my biography of Scratch, People Funny Boy, it was really the most... the album that he made that was sort of closest to the rockers sound that was kind of predominant in Jamaica at that time, which revolved around this sort of these drumming styles that Sly Dunbar had created, although on this album it's actually Benbow Creary who was the drummer. And for those of you who may not have already seen my book, People Funny Boy, you can check out the Canongate Books website. They're still offering the book at a discount. I think that's going to end towards the end of April. So log on quick to www.canongate, that's CANONGATE.net, and check it out. So the next track that we've got lined up is by...
Before we go through to that, this is just a point. This isn't like one of those albums, you know, if you saw it in the racks, it's like one of those albums, you know, when I used to shop for reggae a lot because don't anymore, don't get out much anymore, Dave. It's, you know, this is the kind of thing I would avoid, you know, if I just saw it, you know, Lion Zion,
Yes.
made in America.
Yes, well, and as I do mention in the book, in the late 70s and early 80s, this record was all over the $1.99 and 99-cent bargain bins.
And now you've got to pay a lot of money for it.
Yes, indeed.
But what I really wanted to ask you was, you know, now you've got a bit of a name as the Scratch biographer. Right? Do people come and say, "Hey Dave, you haven't got this," and have you ever heard this, and or throw things at, send stuff to you? Or do you still have to look for it and bargain and know what's your position now?
Yes. What I would say about that, there's a few very kind individuals who do actually bring records to my door. I don't even have to ask them for them. One of them is a guy called Darren, who has a sound system called Nations Vibration. And they play out around the country, so keep your eyes peeled for any flyers about upcoming events with them. I know they've played out in Wales and different places too. A good sound system. Right. And then another person who's helped me out is Jeremy Collingwood from... used to be in charge of like the Distant Drums magazine, and I know he's been giving a helping hand to Pressure Sounds. He's also brought me, you know, some records just off the bat.
He's a lovely chap, Jeremy, as well, and he did a lot of work, coordination work for those Marley reissues, didn't he?
That's right, the JAD, yes,
which haven't had much
sets.
front, but I mean that third one, I mean that kind of disappeared, but it's fantastic stuff.
Phenomenal music, and you know, given again the kind of quality packaging that it deserves, which, you know, labels like, you know, the other great labels out there like Blood and Fire, Pressure Sounds, Now Motion Records, it's the same thing.
It's a wonderful thing. I mean, and you never see it in the shops either. It's crazy. And it's wonderful music. Yeah, I never even saw a review of that. You know because of course it's got the Wong Chu Keep On Moving and the dub, and it's what is it, 20 quid, and you pay you pay 100 quid to go and get that on a 12-inch, you know. So
if you can find it,
I
mean it is peculiar again, since the second box set was, you know, quite highly acclaimed, and rightly so. So I don't really know what happened along there, but
a bizarro thing, isn't it?
So it goes.
Right, I interrupted you 5 minutes ago, and you
yes, queued up, ready to go is a track by the Congos. Now, again, we were talking about this progression with Scratch, what happens to him when he has his own studio and he takes control. And if you've been listening, you can probably notice that the sound has been getting denser and thicker, more effects being poured on. But the track that we're going to play now, it's from the Congos' great debut album, Heart of the Congos, but this is actually the first pressing, which had a different mix to every subsequent pressing, including the excellent reissue package that Blood and Fire coordinated a few years back. And, you know, many people were struck on this album that there's this kind of mooing cow sound all over it, which in my book I explore, you know, who or what was behind the mooing cow. Well, the finger has to be pointed at Waddy Burnett, the baritone singer who joined the Congos at Lee Perry's suggestion while he was at the Ark. But when you're tuning into this cut of this track, you'll note an absence of cow.
The cow is missing.
Yes.
Because it's a bit like the fields of England now.
Yes, well, maybe it's an appropriate track to play in these turbulent times. But, you know, it's also got less delay, and they're different. There's this sort of piano line that's much higher up in the mix. Right. And again, this goes back to what we were talking about before, these alternate takes, alternate cuts. You know, sometimes they come out in some form, sometimes they don't.
So the track we're going to play is...
It's Children Crying.
that you see will be the children of the Most High. Jah Rastafari and I. Jah Rastafari. Send us another Moses to lead the nation. The hungry must be fed, so there'll be no more separation. All the people that you see will be the children of the Most High. Just right, yeah. All the people that you see will be the children of the Most High. Georgia, the children crying in the wilderness. That's right. Georgia, the children crying in the wilderness. Georgia, send us another Moses to lead the nation. The hungry must be fed, so there'll be no more separation. All the people that you see will be the children of the Most High. Georgia, the children crying in the wilderness. That's right. Georgia, the children crying in the wilderness. That's right, say a little prayer in the morning. Say a little prayer in the evening. Children of Jah, stand up and praise the Father. Children of Israel, stand up and praise your God. Say a little prayer in the morning. Say a little prayer in the evening. Children of Jah, stand up and praise the Father. He's the Creator, the Maker of creation. Double it
Thought you might want to toast to this, Dave.
I think I'll decline that honor.
Decline the offer. Well, just check what this one is. I think, isn't it? And a 12 on Disco Bum.
Yes, it's an upsetter disco boom. It's Eric Donaldson, who of course did the great Cherry O Baby. And actually on the B-side of this, there's a kind of post-rockers cut of Cherry O Baby done at the Ark. But this is Say a Little Prayer. And of course, Scratch is dubbing a little prayer on the version portion. And again, when you listen to these sounds, you can just hear what's happening at the Ark. Things are just getting more dramatic and somewhat more drastic, and also more religious.
Yeah, more intense.
Yes.
Well, on the desk, when who was that? Was it Scratch have any assistants on the desk?
Well, from what we understand, it was almost always just Scratch himself.
Yeah. Which is unusual, isn't it, really?
Yes. Well, another unusual thing is that he didn't have any link between the control booth and the kind of voicing area.
Oh, really?
No audio link.
Yeah, so it was all hand stuff.
It was all pounding on the aspects and jumping up and down. Or as Shorty the President, a DJ who voiced a couple tunes down there, said that if, most of the time Scratch would be dancing. If the musicians got it right, if things were happening, Scratch would just be jumping up and down, bouncing along. Yeah. You can see a clip of it in that Roots Rock Reggae. Yeah. And then if you looked up and you saw that he was scowling, or if he was waving his arms at you and shaking his head, then it was like, you're doing it in a wrong way. You've got to do what he's trying to command you to do. You have to use your intuition and work it out and do it the right way.
Amazing.
Indeed.
So, it's funny because later on, of course, post Black Hawk, he very rarely, certainly not now. He doesn't really. Has he gone back to the desk? Because when I saw him, he wouldn't even touch any faders,
when I first met Scratch face to face in the late '80s, when I came across here at the end of '86. He was mixing regularly, but almost none of that stuff has ever come out.
Right.
And the few bits of it that did come out were not tracks that were mixed, sadly. So he was actively mixing material then. But I think what happens along the way is, after Scratch, people close to him do say that probably he had some kind of a breakdown in the end of the 70s. Although, as I say in my book, People Funny Boy, even that is contested, and it really depends how you look at it. And
well, you can read it a different way, can't you? And say it was that Scratch manipulated the situation. Can't you?
That is one way of looking at it. But sometimes, if you spend enough time around Scratch, it's hard to know how much is he in control of the situation and how much is it maybe manipulating him. Sometimes it's a very fine line, and we could debate it endlessly. But what he did say about that time, this kind of transformation, is that first of all he closed his studio because he had to close the reggae factory because reggae had become a monster dog, is what he said to me. And that basically he felt he was surrounded by kind of vampires who were using him. And not only, musicians and singers who were kind of feeding off his ideas and, hitting him up for money, but there were also these like gunmen and kind of gang figures who were extorting him for money. And there were a lot of demands and pressures on Scratch at this time. So what he said, he closed the doors of the Black Ark and basically stopped being a producer. And he said, he wanted to configure himself back into being a singer, which is how he began. In the early 60s, his first involvement officially in music was as a singer at Studio One. So I think it's partly that, when he moved here to Britain, that's probably why he was less actively involved in mixing and producing. He was more concerned with singing.
I think I've said this before somewhere in reviews or whatever, that perhaps but not stated in this way, that in the process of reinventing himself as a singer, he didn't so much become a singer as become like a performance artist, you know.
There's definitely that aspect of it, yes. And you never know what you're going to get, both on record or in live performance. You know, it's always down to the whim of the moment to a certain degree.
For sure. Dave, we mentioned People Funny Boy a few times. It ran out of the print, actually, been reprinted, isn't it? There's a second print.
That's right, a slightly amended printing.
So you've remixed it?
To a degree.
And you've put a bit more information in, I believe. Because when you were here last time, I mentioned this thing about Scratch turning down Talking Heads. Apparently, because that's what he told me anyway. And you did a bit of investigation on that, yeah?
Yes, it turns out it wasn't exactly that he turned down working with the Talking Heads, just that he sort of turned down working with the Tom Tom Club, which was the spin-off project that Tina Weymouth and Chris France, the bass and drum team from Talking Heads, their little side project that they initiated in '81. And the way the story goes is that when Scratch had come to New York to work with this white reggae band called the Terrorists, well, he ended up hooking up with them and working with them. Chris Blackwell suggested to the Tom Tom Club, you know, you're looking for someone to produce your project. How about Scratch? And they were long admirers of Lee Perry, so they said, yeah, you know, let's give it a try. And they arranged a meeting with Scratch when he was staying at the Howard Johnson's in the Lower East Side, which apparently was a bit of a reggae hotel, a kind of Jamaican expat hangout. So they met down there, I believe, with Valerie Cohen, who at the time was working for Island. And, you know, Scratch agreed to the project, and they booked a time and arranged a time for him to come down to Compass Point, Chris Blackwell's studio in the Bahamas. And they started doing their thing down there, and, you know, meanwhile, Scratch just didn't arrive, and a couple weeks went by, and, you know, no sign of Scratch. So they rang him up and said, you know, Scratch, what are you doing? Where are you? And apparently he said, you know, he was preparing to come, but basically they had to get things straight about the money. And he apparently demanded the fee of $1,000 an hour to mix
Seems reasonable to me.
Well, they were saying, you know, they didn't really have the budget for that. And he said, don't worry. I'll mix it in 5 hours, you know. But, you know, as he later said to you, and which he's also said elsewhere, he didn't want to go ahead with that project because although he loved the Tom Tom Club and he loved the music that they made, he didn't want to go ahead with that project because it was an Island Records project, and that Chris Blackwell was behind it. Now, I mean, this is doubly ironic because Blackwell was kind of instrumental in bringing him up to New York, and Blackwell had given him a very big check, which he, you know, some $20,000 check, which he spent on some antique silverware, which was then kind of vanished. But, you know, not only that, he also, Blackwell brought Scratch to the Bahamas to work on an album of his own, you know, which, again, and then in sort of, well, about 84. So there's always been, you know, this kind of give and take relationship between the two of them. A lot of conflicts that maybe were quite resolved. And Scratch has talked about when he was doing that album there in the Bahamas, which came out as History, Mystery, Prophecy, that he again hooked up with Tom Tom Club, who were down there. I think they were working on a project of their own. And, you know, again, spent kind of quite a lot of time with them and their young son. Yeah,
it's a shame actually they didn't do something because I reckon, you know, they were like very cool, weren't they? I mean, cool in like they were a nice little band, Tom Tom Club, and they did enjoy what they were doing and did enjoy reggae a lot, didn't they? And
yes, and it you know, it is one of those what if situations. You think what kind of a combination that probably would have been a wonderful combination. You know, what could have come from that, but you know, maybe it wasn't to be.
It wasn't to be. I've done the impossible here and lined up this next tune, which has a big chunk out at the beginning, Dave. So we're not, God knows we're not hearing it right from the beginning, but it looks like a top thing to me.
Yes, it's Kiddu's Eye with Crying Wolf.
I think I've got the right side on. It's just Crying Wolf side, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah. Oh, God.
yes. And this is I'd like to give a shout out for this tune. I'd like to dedicate it or livicate it, if you will, to a couple of folks who may be tuned. And one is DJ Mystique.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Ian Martindale, who used to do an interesting little magazine called Power Struggle. And a guy who believes firmly in recycling. So I'd like to give a shout out to him, and also to Brian Planet Jackson, the Rastafari's Planet Jackson sound system, who was one person who never hesitated to share his collection of scratch rarities with me. And I'd just like to give thanks for both of those folks for the help they've given me along the way.
For sure. And Brian was in actually a few weeks ago, and I think he had a great video. He videoed Scratched, and he's actually lost the tape as well. You know.
Has he?
Yeah, I think. But having said that, it might be under like a bunch of newspapers or something like that. So there's still hope there, man. Anyway, this tune's for them.
Your concept, for each individual's concept of what's right and wrong. It's one word, one good, one aim for all. You know.
Some of you think you have all the time in this world to do what you want. Hey, not caring what you do to gain that goal. You don't care who gets hurt. You really don't care. You don't care about the ways left behind.
No
me this time. I've made up my mind because I'm a grown man now. I've got my life to live, my love I've got to give, but not to you, girl, not anymore. It's not like before, of that I am sure, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're a grown girl now. You've got your life to live. Your love you've got to give, but not from me, girl. Not anymore. It's not like before. Of that I am sure, because you once had your chances, you threw them away. It's time to go your way, and I'll go mine, because you cheated and you lied. Your friends know you cheated. And you lie, 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 lie.
As this goes through to the dub, we'll do a reminder of the competition actually. We're giving away copies of Born in the Sky, Lee Scratch Perry, Upset at the Controls, 69 to 75, Motion Records, courtesy of James Dutton, the compilation courtesy of one David Katz, also author of the Scratch biography People Funny Boy, reprinted by Canongate.
Yes.
Amazing stream of consciousness stuff, this, isn't it? You know, it goes on and on and on, the links, you know. Anyway, the question, Lee Scratch Perry, the Upsetter, he had loads of other pseudonyms or pet names or nicknames or whatever you want to call it. Must be about 6, 7, 8 or 9.
Endless.
You can even make one up if you like. We don't care. We can attach it to him. Dave will put it in the next edition of the book. And we want you to tell us an alternative nickname for Scratch. You can write to me, Steve Barker, at On The Wire, BBC Radio Lancashire, Darwin Street, Blackburn, BB22EA. You can email me, steve.barker@bbc.co.uk. You can write to James Dutton at Motion Records. That's jd@motionrecords.com. And you can have the CD in either CD format, or the album in CD format, or in vinyl, which is a beautiful thing. It's a gatefold sleeve double vinyl. That's when I'd go for if I were you. And James says, you know, he might give more than one away, so there you go.
Very generous.
He's a generous type of chap.
Be creative and try your luck.
Yeah, why not? People are. Have we got another one lined up? Oh, I've got to do that.
We've got one that you're lining up now.
Yeah, and you're going to talk about it while I do that. Yeah.
We're just fading out of Waddy Burnett from the Congos with Too Late, and that's one of those tracks that comes from pretty late down in the arc, in the late 70s, just before things start to go haywire. And actually Waddy himself brought those tapes up to New York and maybe did a bit of overdubbing, a bit of fiddling on that. Came out on a Rhythm Force 12-inch. So the track we've got lined up now is Lee Perry, the great upsetter himself, as vocalist, producer, mixer, the man at the controls, the man at the helm, everything, with Chase Them. Listen to these lyrics.
Lord, rain it, let the earth rejoice. Let the multitude of I'll be glad thereof. Clouds of darkness are round about him. Righteousness and judgment are the habitation of his throne. Chase them, Rasta, chase them. Chase them with the bird control. Chase them, naughty, chase them. Don't let them gain control. Chase them, Rasta, chase them. Chase them with the red, green and gold. Chase them, Rastafari. Don't let them gain control. For the Lord said, let the seed of Abraham be like sands upon the shore. And now Babylon want to prevent it with their birth control. If we chase them, naughty, chase them. Chase them with the red, green and gold. Chase them, naughty Congo. Don't let them gain control. Take this in consideration. Sin is a reproach to any nation. Don't you side up with the Babylon and bring down judge of vengeance. Chase them, naughty Congo. Chase them with the red, green and gold. Chase them, Rastafari. Don't let them gain control. Chase them. Give unto the Lord the glory due to his name, you know. King Alpha. Chase them, Rastafari. Chase them with the bird control. Chase them, naughty Congo. Don't let them gain control. For the Lord said, let the seeds of Abraham be like sands upon the shore. Now Babylon want to prevent it with their birth control. Chase them, Rastafari. Chase them with the red, green and gold. Chase them, naughty Congo. Don't let them gain control. Chase them, naughty dreadlocks. Chase them with the income tax. Chase them, naughty dreadlocks. Don't let them gain control. Why? The Lord will it, you know. Let the earth rejoice. Let the multitude of us be glad hereof. Road and darkness are round about him, you know. Righteousness and judgment are the habitation of his throne. Chase them, yeah. Chase them, Rastafari. Chase them with the bird control. Chase them, naughty Congo. Don't let them gain control. Chase them, naughty dreadlocks. Chase them with the income tax. Chase them, Rastafari. Don't let them gain control.
Yes, the only land of the tribe of Judah had to pray, to open the book and to loose the seven seas. For no man in heaven nor in earth, neither on the earth, was worthy. When I build the Satan to be weak, not the only land of the tribe of Judah, to open the book and to loose the seven seas. Yes, and I can remember His Majesty 96. the ships are sailing to take us home. Do you know planes are flying to take us home? Do you know? At the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of gold. At the end of the rainbow, there's a riches in store. At the end of the rainbow, there's a Rastafari waiting for I, even I, and I. The ships are sailing, do you know, to take us home, where we belong. You know, the planes are flying so high, take us home, where we belong. For at the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of gold. At the end of the rainbow, there's a riches in store. At the end of the rainbow, there is Rastafari waiting for us, even I and I. Do you know the ships are sailing, sailing, sailing to Zion land? Do you know? Do you know? I say, do you know? The ships are sailing to take us home, where we belong. You know, planes are flying so high to take us home, where we belong. Do you know? I ask, do you know? Do you know? I do you know? Do you know that the wicked is falling, my God? Are they falling?
All the way up there in Ingleton, Carnforth, Southport, Ormskirk, Preston, Trough and Manchester. Hey, you can hear it banging round in Clackeaton, Tockles, Darren, Wetwang, Frodsham, Backup and Boughton, the rolling vistas of Formby, the fleshpots of the Fylde coast, even in Up Holland. It's on the wire. 95.5, 103.9, 104.5 FM.
Right, Dave, just a couple of minutes to go before the end of the show, and it's kind of crept up on us, hasn't it? Yeah.
Indeed.
Got to say a big thank you to you for coming, and to James specifically for driving up here. It's a
pleasure.
Smashing programme, and I've really enjoyed it once more. It's been really quick. You're going to have to do it again. It's going to have to be a regular 6-monthly thing or whatever it is, you know?
Well, if your listeners would like to have me back, I'll be all too happy to come in for the part 3, because this has been my pleasure, definitely, and I thank you for having me as a guest on the show once again.
You're welcome. Do you think you'll have enough material?
Judging by the pile of records that I brought with me, I think we maybe got through about half of that stick, and that was just a select few that I kind of brought up specifically for this show. So,
well, maybe next time you come, we'll do record part 3 and then do 4 and 5 in advance and do it that way. My guest tonight has been Dave Katz, author of People, Funny Boy, published by Canongate, and compiler of Born in the Sky, Upsetter at the Controls, out on Motion Records. Thanks to you for listening, and we'll see you again on The Wire next Saturday night at 10. Bye now.